Jane Remover, Leroy, Venturing, Hate Page, and a million other aliases. Jane Remover has been making music under several monikers for years now. And while she primarily began off as a producer in 2019, later going on to make her own music as well as producing for others, she's been actively releasing music under many platforms, under many names. In general, we're going to talk about the music she makes, why it is so influential, and how she managed to carve out this Jane-shaped space in the industry for herself. Before we get too deep into it though, let's get to know each other a little bit. Hi, welcome to my channel where I talk about music and music-related things that I find interesting. I like to talk about artists, albums, events, and observations that I see happening in the music world, so if that's something that you guys seem to be into, you are welcome to like, subscribe, and stick around for a little while. I try to post videos every Wednesday at noon, so hit the notification bell to know every single video that I post, and let me know in the comments what brought you to this video. I would love to know. So, Jane Remover. Who is she? She is the mind behind some very influential hyperpop and digicore projects of the 2020s. You may know her from her works on Frailty, Census Designated, or maybe you even saw her open for JPEG Mafia or Break-Ins. Or maybe you're just into similar artists. Whatever your history with her may be, this video is going to be a sort of archive, a little bit of a deep dive into what makes her music so unique and how she found a way to make this Jane Remover sound. So to really get into what this Jane Remover sound is, we need to start off with Dariacore, which is a work under the name of Leroy, which is one of her many side projects that Jane has, but let's get into it. Headphone emoji, what is Dariacore? I hear you asking, and don't worry girl, I'm gonna explain it to you. Dariacore is an independent project that was made in late 2020-ish. It's very electronic. It has samples similar to the rest of her music, but it's a reference obviously to the show Daria. And it's kind of like overall just mashup-y. I guess genre-wise it's very similar to, I believe it's called Mashcore. The original Dariacore compilation had 16 tracks on it. They were all posted under Leroy and they were up until around mid-2021. A little bit later on though, we had the next set of Dariacore songs. Dariacore 2 was released and it had 15 tracks on it, 12 tracks and then 3 bonus tracks that were posted under the Bandcamp release. And then Dariacore 3 was released in 2022. It was actually released after Frailty, but another 12 songs were released under the alias Concern for streaming, and then on SoundCloud they were under Leroy. So that was the last of the Dariacore installments. Dariacore installments. But now that we have a proper timeline of sorts, let's get into how this really managed to change the music scene. Dariacore has been described as a genre in and of itself. It takes on these hyperpopic tendencies and really plays into them a lot. It has crazy samples and is somewhat like over the top with its production, almost to like an extreme. It was the result of Jane just messing around in FL Studio, you know, as a lot of artists do, and it was inspired by tracks such as Sick and Panic by Vectroid on SoundCloud, I believe, and that's another rather like glitchy track. But Jane's work has been expressed as something that drew inspo from many things such as like hyperpop, memes, pop music in general, and it heavily uses breakbeats and drum and bass. It's all jumbled up into a beautiful mess, really. Not saying that it's like a mess by any means. If you listen to any of her work, you'll see that she finds a way to make this chaos all like work together. The mixtape itself was received fairly well. More than that, she's credited as creating her own micro genre. The name of the genre, of course, being Dariacore, but it's gone over to inspire countless other artists and other songs, mainly consisting of these like Jersey Club style remixes and mashups that you've probably heard similar things on TikTok. The genre itself is also referred to as hyperflip or experimental EDM. It's a genre of many names. Of course, it's very hard to give something a name when it's so niche, and it's built on years of the internet's like love and hate relationship with the EDM style of music, and it goes beyond what is like a general understanding of what electronic music is. Labeling genres is hard work. It hurts my head to really think about, so we're just gonna refer to it as like Dariacore or Jane Remover-esque music from here on out. But now that we have like a basis of this style of music, I really want to get into Jane's music specifically, and deeper than that, I really want to talk about her unique use of samples. So as I said before, Dariacore heavily emphasizes on samples and niche internet samples, if that. And the thing about Jane is she's very self-referential in her music. She tends to retool her own riffs a lot and take the iconic like Jane Scream, for example. Once you hear it in one of her songs, you'll hear it throughout all of her work. And another thing was just like a little bit tidbit, but in Dilf Repellent in Dariacore, she samples The City by 1975, which is very important to me, very special to me. I had to add that in for the video. But she also sampled Me and You Together song in Kodak Moment, which We're gonna talk about Kodak Moment in a second, but I love a good 1975 sample. I mean, like, if you go through the list of samples that she's used, it is never ending. She loves to sample her own work and like her older work, which is interesting because Jane is notorious for being like the #1 hater of her old work, yet she sampled like Backseat Girl in Flash in the Pan and Home Switcher in JR. And she's just constantly like reworking and repurposing her old work, which is something that you don't really see a lot of other artists do. She also samples a lot of like literal sounds. Like there's a 3DS menu sound in Kodak Moment. See, I told you guys Kodak Moment will pop up again. And there's also a Guitar Hero sound effect in it. And recently, a lot of people have already mentioned this, but there is a sample of the Palkia Pokemon sound in JR and her latest song, Dancing with Your Eyes Closed, which the Guitar Hero riff is also in, as well as the like home run swing from Nintendo. So like, if you can already tell, she takes a lot of samples from internet media, which is a staple of this Dariacore genre, really, and it plays a lot into the internet culture that her music kind of brings. It's not like just Jane, like other people sample her music too. The fill in Your Clothes has been sampled literally to the ends of the earth and back. And talking about Your Clothes, let's get into her music specifically. One thing about Jane is no matter how talented she is, no matter how incredible her work is, she manages to still subvert like the mainstream. We see this with some of her earlier works, specifically with the album Teen Week, which Home Switcher is on, which is one of her first songs to really go like viral or popular. But a little bit after that, in 2021, was when Frailty was released, which was her first project under Dead Air, I believe, and it actually fluctuates a lot sound-wise. I don't know like genre-wise, but the sounds of each of the songs is very different, and at the time it was one of her biggest projects to date. It begins with this very like lo-fi track called Goldfish, the next song being the ever so popular Your Clothes. The next couple songs kind of go from this like 8-bit rock vibe to a much calmer sound, at least just for a moment, before it goes into this crunchy, very Jane Remover-esque sound. Once again, like the sounds of this album float in a way that's very coherent, yet each song is very different. Each of the instrumentals, each of the guitar melodies and the vocals, they sort of like mishmash. That's a silly word. They mix together in a way where it sounds almost like a beautiful disaster. Again, not saying this album is disastrous in any way. It was one of my favorite releases of 2021. But the way that it switches so quickly from these calmer sounds to stuff that are very like high BPM, very distorted, very high pitched, it's almost giving me like whiplash to listen to. I'm not gonna lie, it's really good. It's very synthy. It has a decent amount of piano too in it, which is always nice to hear. And of course, upon re-listen for this video, the album is growing on me a lot. Again, I haven't listened to it in quite a while. It's very different from a lot of her recent work, which I have been listening to a lot recently. I wouldn't say it's any better or worse. It's definitely different. I know Jane isn't the biggest fan of it, but I'm a pretty big fan. Census Designated being her sophomore project on Dead Air, it's been described as an indie noise rock odyssey, which is kind of like word vomit, but it's cinematic. It tells a story. It has very soft vocals, very emotional sounds. It begins off with the song Cage Girl Cam Girl, and this song almost immediately transports you into essentially the location of the album. It transports you into the story itself. It's very echoey. It makes noises that make you feel like you're in this rural, like secluded field that a lot of the imagery of the album takes place in. Halfway through the song, there is this insane breakdown, very Jane Remover-esque again, but the song is a very good intro to the album. It's a very good intro to her music, or like the sound of like more of her recent music kind of. This is still like 2022, 2023. It transitions from these darker, fuzzier instrumentals to this now like cacophony of noise halfway through the album. It's a little bit like startling at first, but it really captures the emotions of this album. There's a very clear juxtaposition in her music between the graceful vocals, very soft vocals, and this heavy metal sound that you hear with the instrumentals. In a Reddit AMA that she did almost like 2 years ago now, she talks about how she was done with side projects and she really wanted to focus on being Jane Remover. As far as genres go though, she kind of just does whatever she wants. She wants to do a little bit of everything, a little bit of anything. And as we look at Census Designated versus Frailty, we really see two completely different albums. One made when she was 17 and one made when she was 19. And you can really hear the growth and maturity in her production, really. Both albums reflect where she was mentally, where she was in her life, and both are worlds of their own, yet very intertwined, kind of like how just stages of life are, you know? But now we find ourselves in present day, 2024, 2025. Jane Remover has gone on tour with JPEG Mafia now and has opened for Break-Ins. She's about to start her own solo tour, Turn Up or Die. And we find ourselves in the rollout of her next project, Revengeseekerz, I believe the name is. It has a very different sound, not too different from her other music, but it's definitely elevated, just a teensy tiny bit different. My favorite single so far being Magic I Want You. If you know me at all in person, I could not stop listening to this song for like 3 months straight. If it was in my AirPods, it was listening to Magic I Want You. If I was on aux, it was Magic I Want You. If there were sound waves, she was heard. But this new era of music with songs like Flash in the Pan, Magic I Want You, her latest couple singles, JR, and now Dancing with Your Eyes Closed, they have this very electronic experimental sound to them, and you don't really hear it as much in her other music. It's following less of a storyline from what we can tell now. That's very subject to change when the album comes out in full, but it sounds very modern, if anything. Like if you listen to artists like Snow Strippers or maybe even like Two Hollis, maybe. It would be her third release under Dead Air now, at least under the name Jane Remover. Of course, we did finally get a venturing album release under Dead Air, which is really amazing because I know her other like label or manager was not really a fan of her going under other names. So it's really nice that they let her shine and put her art out. And overall, I am just very excited for the future. I know that I'm going to love whatever she releases because I've already loved everything so far. I don't expect anything to be out so soon because Dancing with Your Eyes Closed just came out. But I guess this video here is just for whenever Revengeseekerz is announced, when tour begins, whenever people want to know a little bit more about Jane Remover, this video is here for that. I just want everyone to know how amazing her music is, how creative she is, why she's such a staple in the 2020s for music especially, because I feel like people don't really talk about it as much, especially while we're living in it. It's hard to know who is going to be so influential, but we can really see it with Jane's music. It is just so unique. It is so appealing. If you're not already on the Jane Remover bus, get on board. But I think that's gonna be it for the video. I don't really have too much to say about her. Thank you to everyone who helped me like streamline this video because I had a lot of ideas and they were all like jumbled up in my brain. So there were a couple of people on Twitter who just helped me analyze my thoughts and kind of put them into a video format. Thank you so much for that. My OGs forever. But I don't really have too much else to say. If I do, I will post it on Twitter or on TikTok, so follow my socials, I guess. That's the end of the video. Let me know if you want me to talk about any other artists or albums, but yeah, bye!